Rob Palmer in Springfield, Missouri. Today I'm going to be presenting in the first of a series of short presentations on crashworthiness cases of all different sorts. Today we're going to focus on seatback failures. But before I talk about the actual seatback failures itself, I need to talk about what crashworthiness is. Crashworthiness is the doctrine, product liability theory, that if there's a defect either by manufacturer or design in a vehicle, it enhances or causes injuries in an accident much more than you would anticipate in a normal accident. That can be from a number of different factors in a vehicle, but in this particular case, we're going to focus on the seat backs of cars, trucks, vans, and even major semi-tractor trailer trucks and all sorts of vehicles. It's estimated that 95% of all vehicles here in the United States have weak, what are called weak seat backs, and will collapse in rear end accidents. As you can see, the Center for Automotive Safety reports that each year 50 children are killed, as well as 1,000 adults as a result of seat back failures. And of course, many more than that receive catastrophic or serious injury, including quadriplegia, paraplegia, and brain damage. The seat back is part of the restraint system. In fact, your seat belts, airbags, and everything in the vehicle that is there meant to protect you are based and founded on having a good seat structure. Most people don't appreciate that how important the seat back and the seat itself is to your safety in a collision. Actually, there can be seat back failures or seat failures in frontal collisions where the seat comes out of the floorboard, for instance, which I've seen before, and it causes serious injuries. But in this case, we're mostly going to be focusing on rear end accidents that cause the seat back to fail. And that can also happen in rollover accidents when the vehicle hits on its tail end, causing the same thing as a rear end accident. As I mentioned, the seat back is the primary protection in a rear accident. It's important to know that your seat belts, as you can see from these still frames here in front of you, is of no use if your seat back fails. If you notice, this dummy, anthropomorphic dummy, has a 3-point seat belt on that you would find in all vehicles today. Notice by the second frame, the shoulder belt is off, and notice how the lap belt doesn't even keep the dummy's hips in the seat. And so just because you have your seat belt on, it will not protect you if the seat back fails. When you are ejected out of your seat, and that's what happens, just as you saw that dummy, when it comes out of the seat, the head will hit the seat back or a hard area. If it hits the seat back, you can have paraplegia or quadriplegia, if you break your neck or your lower back. If you hit a hard structure, you can have brain damage, like one of the pillars in the vehicle. And you can also, if a window comes out, go right out and be ejected out of the vehicle. And of course, then catastrophic injury and fatalities can also occur. Also, the seatback failure is extremely dangerous for anyone seated behind the seat back that fails. So if there's a child in a child seat or just another occupant, and I'm going to show you some videos here in just a second, the other occupant can be seriously injured or killed in some cases when the front seat's occupant's seat back fails. Here's a Kia Optima. This is after the accident. In this particular case, the individual ended up being a quadriplegic. She was hit by a drunk driver, and she was ejected into the back seat. As you notice, the seat headrest is out. That is a key indicator that a seat back has also failed. So you want to look for that when you're looking at a potential seat back failure case. Here's another case, is the Jeep Wrangler, the ongoing litigation where the seat was a rollover accident, and the driver in this particular case was rendered a quadriplegic as she was ejected out of the vehicle. And here's a Ford Explorer seat back failure. I mean, you can find this in all different kinds of vehicles, not just in Kias and Fords. Here's a Hyundai, and this is two photos of the same vehicle. The seat cover is just off on the right, but you can see how this person was seriously injured when they were ejected out of this seat. And here's one with a car seat in it, a Ford Explorer. And in this particular case, the child, as I understand it, died as the seat back came into the child's seat and killed the young child that was in that seat. Here is a video of a This is a crash test. And the crash test is when two vehicles are put together. Sled test is when it's on a sled. You can see the driver's seat fails. It is in a Mercedes. It's been hit by a Yukon, 2004 Yukon. And here's the same crash from the front. They put in a standard Ford type seat in the driver's seat here. Watch how it fails. Watch how the seat belt comes off the occupant and they're allowed to be ejected into the back seat. And here's an even better view of it. Excuse me. I'll see if I can get this to manually move. Here's an even better view of it. You can see the dummy moving into the back seat and being ejected out of the seat. This dummy if it's a human, they most likely would have been a quadriplegic or paraplegic as a result of this accident. Now here's pictures of the same vehicle we were just looking at, that 2011 Mercedes-Benz, and the driver's seat, as you can see, is completely failed. The regular Mercedes-Benz seat, which is where the passenger sits, did not fail and would have properly restrained the individual who was seated there. And here's another really good video that shows in a standard Chrysler vehicle, the ejection. You can't really see it very clearly, but the headrest comes out. This is a smaller dummy, and clearly the neck would have been broken in this case, which would have caused, obviously, catastrophic injury. The next slide is another incident of the same thing. That would definitely be quadriplegia. You can see how the seatbelt comes off the individual and does not provide any restraint at all. Now, why this video is important is because even though you can't see it here at first, there's a child in the back seat, child dummy. And if you watch closely, you'll see the seat fails in this Mercedes. Again, it's an American seat, not a regular Mercedes seat. And it hits the child in the back seat. You can barely see the top of the dummy, but here it is again. Now the same crash scenario. Now watch what happens with the head of the male anthropomorphic dummy and the child's head. That would cause severe brain damage and other injuries to that child seated behind the driver in this case. Here is a reinforced seat, and why it's important is what they've done is they put in, with about $5 of extra metal, they put into the seat, and watch what happens now. Same exact forces, same type of accident, crash test. Now notice that all the dummy does is, backseat dummies barely brush the headrest. This child would have probably not received any injuries, maybe a little bruise on its forehead. And that is the difference for this child, is $5 part of metal. Now, why do seats fail? Well, there's a whole bunch of different reasons: broken parts, broken recliner mechanism, metal failure, sheared teeth. Almost all comes back to a failure to design the seat to be strong and to stay in place in rear end accidents. As you can see here, there's a case with a Ford Explorer, and one of the supports on the inboard side, it literally just broke. I've seen this a number of times. And here's another example. This is in a Ford Focus. You can actually see how the anchor point for the seat, the recliner mechanism, is on the outboard side. That's by the window. And the inboard side, it was just literally the bar just sat in a hole. When it got pulled, hit, the whole seat just failed. And you can see there what happened. And here are sheared teeth. This is a very common occurrence. The recliner mechanism has a set of teeth in it. And when the forces are applied, the paw that stays in those teeth to keep your seat at whatever position you put it in will literally come out, separate, and bounce along the top, and the seat will fail like it has here. Why am I showing you this chair that you could buy at Walmart? Because believe it or not, this chair would pass the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards, which 207 governs seat back failures and seats in particular. That provision was established by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration in 1968. It has never changed. You can actually build a cardboard seat if you want, and it will pass the standard. That's how outdated the standard is. The car companies have resisted for years, decades, any changes to the standard to 207. and they put a lot of money into resisting any changes of that standard. And unfortunately, as far as I'm aware, there are no plans to change that standard in the future. So what do you look for? Now, you get a case that comes in your office and you think that the injury is significant enough to support a crashworthiness case. So these are some of the things you want to look for. First of all, was the occupant seatbelted? Even though I've already shown you that seatbelts don't really affect the occupant if they have it on, I found over the years that juries in particular will not warm up to a case where the occupant was not wearing their seatbelt. So first of all, were they wearing their seatbelts? Second, what is the vehicle seat deformed, as I showed you in those photographs? Now, just be aware, sometimes seat backs rebound. And so you'll look for other signs, such as there's serious injury or death in a rear end accident, which should not happen, or the front occupant is found out of position, like in the seat, back in the seat back, where the rear seats are, or way out of position. Those things are indicators of a seat that failed. Ejection from a vehicle when the seat belts were in use also strongly indicates the seat back failure. And rear occupants with serious to fatal injuries, especially when the front seat occupants are not very seriously injured. I've actually seen cases where the front seat occupants have no injuries at all, but the back seat occupants are dead because of the seat back failure. Now, what to do if you think you have a seatbelt case? Just a little help you there. Preserve the vehicle. Do not move the seats or seat belts. That's very, very important. Do not accept any offer of settlement until a products case has been ruled out. One of the reasons for that is if you settle with, for instance, the bullet vehicle, the vehicle that hit them from the rear too early, the case can get moved to federal court. And these cases are not as viable in federal court as they are in most state courts. The third, take numerous photographs of the vehicle from all sides, and in particular of the seat that failed. Then call us, and we'll be glad to, either myself or Eric Jensen would be glad to look at your case for you. And then lastly, be sure you do this before the statute runs. Here is my contact information, and also the same contact information for Eric Jensen. We mainly do crashworthiness cases, and I've done them for over 30 years, so I'm glad to do anything I can to assist you to evaluate a case. Thank you very much.